Jailer, can you hear me out there? Well, if you do not care to, I shall pretend you're listening, even if you've heard my story so many times. You get that bottle of wine I arranged for my wife to get you? I admit I'm paying for your attention. Thank you for sharing it with me. You understand, no matter what they call me, I'm a man with a heart. Your health, jailer. Although I've served princes, talked with kings on intimate terms, I make no claims to noble birth. I was born in Florence on the 3rd day of May, the year of our Lord, 1469, first son to Bernardo di Niccolo di Buoninsegna, the good sign. Well, what's in a name? I know everything. A happy enough childhood, playing with my brother, Toto. He's now a priest, no interest in politics whatsoever, especially with me as an example. He was not much of a reader anyway. I love books. The decades of Biondi, Roman histories of Livy. Davy, such a noble example is history provided for us Italians. The Inquisitor will not want to hear about that when he comes to visit while I languish in jail. He'll want to know about politics, diplomacy, intrigue, conspiracy. I remember when I was a boy a conspiracy, the Pazzi conspiracy. Oh, I had nothing to do with it. I was but 9 when it happened. You remember the story? One of the Medici was murdered during the elevation of the host right in the cathedral, and the Pope had planned it. And how the Medici avenged themselves. Even then there was a warning for me. I could have heeded far better. Trust no one else, and sometimes not even yourself. Then, however, I was just a boy, but I saw the sight myself, high up in the windows of the palazzo, where after he was caught, the archbishop was hanged, the body swinging back and forth, until the crowd cut it down and tore it to pieces. Blood flowed in the streets of Florence like a river. You wonder how I could remember that? How could I forget it? Were we not all raised on tales like that, even those of us who didn't witness them? Betrayed by everybody. France, Germany, the Swiss, all of them using our country, our Florence, as their training camp. You have to understand, jailer, all I ever wanted to do was to serve my country. I was 29 years old when I was first appointed head of the Chancellery. The first time I ever felt the voice of power. But there were other voices that could be heard throughout Florence at the time. One of them very frightening. Savonarola. I suppose you remember Savonarola, the unarmed prophet? No, you'd rather not discuss him. Oh, I'm sure he kept you busy. He burned books. Among those books, some that I loved. He burned people. His only heresy was not obeying him. That's how he made what he called a bonfire of the vanities. One day, Savonarola overreached himself when he preached against His Holiness Pope Alexander VI, whose single greatest achievement was his illegitimate son, Cesare Borgia. And Savonarola expected too much piety and too much purity from someone who could define such words any way he wished. As he had burned others, Savonarola burned as well. I would call it a failed political experiment. I ever tell you about my good friend Soderini? He was the one who tutored me in my profession. Oh, I can still remember those good times as if I was living them all over again. Hey, Soderini, over here, it's your old pupil, Niccolo. Host a bottle of your finest Chianti for me and my friend. Remember that letter you wrote to me just before my arrest? Be prudent. I know. You're in exile too now. In Ragusa, I think. But at least you were spared prison and torture. Remember that eulogy I wrote for you? I'm sure you'd enjoy it even more now than you would in those other circumstances. On the night that Soderini died, his soul was hurled to the world below, but getting there 'twas mortified. Pluto sent it to limbo, where the babies go. Is that where you and I will meet again, my old patron? You're not like babes in the way we have fallen. You to exile and me to... Both of us are now in limbo. Oh, but I remember once. It seems like so long ago, the letter I wrote to another patron while I was serving the Signoria. To my patron Francesco Vettori. You asked me to write to you of my opinion on the political situation as I see it, so I shall try to answer you as directly as possible. As to the present state of the world, I conclude that we are ruled by princes who, whether as part of their natural tendency or for other reasons, can best be described in this way. A pope who knows what he's about and therefore says little and acts prudently. A king of France who is both haughty and unsure of himself. An emperor who is indecisive and always changing his mind. The king of Spain who is both greedy and miserly. The king of England who is wealthy, cruel, and lusts for glory. The Swiss who are pigs, insolent and victorious, and we Italians who are poverty-stricken, proud, and altogether degraded. If I do not mention other monarchs, it is only because I have not yet made their acquaintance. Your servant, Niccolo Machiavelli. I not served well in those early days of my career? Did I not speak honestly when I believed that the highest value of a diplomat was telling the truth? You have to understand, jailer, those were days when I thought I could do anything. I can almost hear the music that introduced me to the object of my first assignment, a countess no less. Niccolo Machiavelli, emissary to the Signoria of Florence, wishes this day an audience with Caterina Sforza, Countess of Imola and Forli. Countess Sforza, my condolences on the death of your husband. It grieves me to disturb you at a time of mourning, but the world must go on. As a gift, I am authorized to present to you by the Signoria this exquisite silver lyre. beautifully crafted by a man of stunning genius and talent, the great Leonardo da Vinci. I trust you are in good health and that your son is still gainfully employed in his favorite profession, that of a noble, valiant soldier for hire. I believe we still owe him 2,000 scudi for services rendered. You have the promise of the Republic. We will be sending you the money shortly. So you're saying you like what Florentines say, but seldom like what Florentines do after they say it. Am I to understand you would like to change the terms of the agreement? Well, if you will allow me to return to Florence for further instructions, I will be on my way. And oh, by the way, you couldn't lend me a few scudi. It seems that the Signoria have forgotten to pay me sufficiently for the journey back. I'm sure that if I waited long enough they would send me more money, but I must be returning, although I appreciate your hospitality in offering me a bed for the night. I bid her a hasty adieu, always smiling. And I return to Florence, for there's no telling when a woman who has lost 3 husbands might be searching for a 4th. Oh, my old friend, how you must wonder, though I am humbled in this prison, at all the people I was to meet in those days. The one who gave me the highest hopes of a true leader, Cesare Borgia. Niccolo Machiavelli, emissary to the Signoria of Florence, wishes this day to present his credentials to Cesare Borgia, Duke of Valentinois. Your Excellency, I must confess I am quite overwhelmed with the magnificence of your court. Oh, do not misunderstand me. It is not base flattery I offer you, merely the simple truth. I am especially intrigued by your motto, aut Caesar, aut nihil, either be Caesar or be nothing. I understand that your plans are to conquer all of Romagna within a year and restore the land of Italy to its former Roman glory. I believe that the Signoria in Florence share your hopes. May they come as soon as you have wished. Your servant, sir. Ah! Your Excellency, I don't mean to intrude on your time, but I need to understand what I just saw with my own eyes. The guards must have gone mad. They have just executed Vitellozzo and Orsini. They were assassinated by strangulation the second that they entered the court. You know about this. But what is their crime? Have they not just won a glorious victory for you? Oh, forgive me, Your Excellency. No, I am not here to question you. I would never dare to dream such a thing. I'm the pupil here. You're the teacher. I just don't understand what is accomplished by... It was there that he told me how it is far easier to rid yourself of trusting friends than to wait until they become wily enemies. I think I understand that. But can you trust no one? I see. I have so much to learn from you. Your Excellency, I don't think even you would believe just how much. It must be obvious to everybody that it is more honorable for a prince always to keep his word and practice integrity rather than subtlety and dishonest dealings. And yet, that there are those rulers who have done great deeds that make little use of honesty. For you must be aware that there are 2 ways of conducting a contest. One by law, the other by force. Man observes the first, animals the second. But, as the first is not often sufficient, necessity dictates that the second must be used. Jailer, you asleep? sorry I cannot give you tales that you best understand, but you must give me some of your attention, especially when I tell you about the single most significant person I ever had the privilege of meeting. His greatest secret I'll share with you and you alone. Maestro da Vinci. Such an honor to meet you, an honest man at last. I've heard you say that the single greatest deception men suffer is from their own opinions. Well, I'm not meeting you so we can deceive each other. But I agree with you that my task is not an easy one, trying to convince other states that their interests somehow miraculously coincide with those of Florence. I believe that you know that I was the one to present that exquisite silver lyre you fashioned to the Countess Sforza. Oh, please don't be modest. Modesty is only a virtue when it is deserved. As far as my skills in diplomacy are concerned, all I can tell you is that I have learned that the best way of courting favor from monarchs is to find out what they want to hear before they tell me. But you must know, as War Minister, about the dangers of giving advice to ambitious monarchs. You have my sympathies. I am always trying to find ways for my patrons to avoid war. They take a special pride of their own in waging it, of course, while all the while they want me to convince their adversaries that they would prefer to avoid it. But you consider such deceptions part of the human condition. I must confess, I am bewildered by what you believe, Maestro. You're first and foremost an artist. You deal in the truth in your work, not deception. That bronze equestrian statue of yours, I'm sure it must give you great satisfaction, although I haven't seen it lately. I suspect it's been cast by now. It was what? Cannonballs? Well, I suspect they needed the bronze. And the original clay model? Used for target practice by the French. Well, I can see why you think that war is a bestial illness of mankind. But I must confess I am puzzled. I've been shown some of your plans, and I have never seen such ingenuity in crafting weapons of mass destruction. What do you mean they don't work? You deliberately designed war machines that no one is able to... None of the engineers are willing to acknowledge this. So, to do good, you must first pretend to do ill. Yes, I agree with you, Maestro. It is not in God's hands to mend the vicious part of man's nature, but God gives us a gift that helps us to rise above our animal nature, the soul. We disagree. The mind is God's greatest gift to man. Yes, you're right, Maestro, but I have never until this moment met anyone willing to say that out loud. I've never seen the soul. Can't measure a soul or know how it works. But the mind, that is the gift that God has given man. And if he uses it the way it was meant to be used, it will restore to us the paradise that was lost. You are aware, aren't you, that there are some very powerful people who would find your ideas dangerous, and mine as well. Maybe you are the soul that I have been looking for all this time. We are both afflicted with the same condition. We can think what is unthinkable to others. Do you think we can trust each other? I'm asleep now, jailer. What do you got a message for me? Tomorrow morning, the Inquisitor is coming. Well, You may not be burdened with my presence much longer. No, 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 don't protest. I know you are a forbearing man. If only Borgia were still around, he would not have let this happen. Several years after I met the great Da Vinci, Borgia's luck abandoned him. His friends betrayed him, his allies turned on him, he died in battle, and his assassins did not even know who he was when they killed him. Cesare Borgia! How could you not heed the advice of your own motto, aut Caesar, aut nil? Either be Caesar or be nothing. What happened? Where are you now? When your father, the Pope, died, how could you let your enemy become Pope? The deceitful Julius? Did the fox abandon the lion? You don't understand, Cesare Borgia. You were my hope that one day all of Italy would be united. Could you understand my vision? Could any of you? Borgia! What happens to a man after he loses everything? Does he also lose his soul? Maybe sleeping through all of this, but listen now. There was a time once in my diplomatic life when I became a warrior. It was in 1506. In the successful campaign against Pisa, it was I who trained the militia that helped carry the day. I can remember it so clearly. I can almost think of myself as a man of action. Could you imagine that? Keep up the pace. Be careful. You must save your sword for the Pisans, not run on it by accident. Halt! Company! Well, men, it has been 15 years since the first revolt of Pisa against Florentine rule. And once again, we are going to prevail. And why? Because this militia is made up of men who serve their own country, not another's. Let the emperor and the French hire their Swiss mercenaries. We are citizens, free men. And as free men, our highest reward is paid not in florins, but in liberty. And one day we will see all of Italy free. To arms! Oh, don't be frightened, jailer. What you just heard is simply a product of my imagination and memory. For even as I spoke, the moment of greatest triumph, my luck changed. The Medici. In 1512, after an exile of 20 years, chose that moment to return. Thought it could be of service to them. I was sadly mistaken. For soon after the blows came so quickly that before I could recover from one, it was followed by another. As of this day, the 7th of November, 1512, Niccolo Machiavelli, Chancellor of the Second Chancellery, Secretary to the Council of Ten, is by order of His Magnificence Giuliano de' Medici, Duke of Florence, dismissed, deprived, and totally removed from all his posts, offices, and privileges. As of this day, the 10th of November, 1512, Niccolo Machiavelli, former official, is restricted to reside, visit, and journey only within the limits of the Duchy of Florence for 1 calendar year. He has also been levied a cautionary fine of 1,000 golden florins. As of this day, the 17th of November, 1512, Niccolo Machiavelli, citizen, is forbidden to enter the palazzo and visit any of the offices of state upon pain of the displeasure of His Magnificence, Giuliano de' Medici. Marcello Virgilio, who certainly knew me better than to think I had mishandled the army's money, questioned me. And all this time he had been my assistant. Marcello, did you ever know me to pocket anything for myself? Marcello Virgilio, look at me. Are you not the same man I saw 1 month ago, smiling at me, laughing at my jests? And if you are the same man, maybe it is I who am changed. What is it, Marcello? Is this another Niccolo Machiavelli standing before you, who once enjoyed the smiles of fortune? Has her frown now turned me into a changeling? Whoever knew or sheltered, or knew who sheltered Niccolo, son of Messer Bernardo Machiavelli, shall within the hour of the hearing of this proclamation denounce him or be declared a rebel with a forfeiture of all his worldly goods. Friends, Florentines, countrymen, welcome to this prison. You may well ask why I, Niccolo Machiavelli, am thus entombed. Let's just say you see in me the results of a failed political experiment. I'm sure there are many such in this place. Up on that carnival wheel of fortune we see such heights, and then the next time you speak to his magnificence, the next time you're invited into the august presence of Giuliano de' Medici, you tell him about Niccolo Machiavelli, of his crime, that he wished to serve the state. I'm terribly sorry that my humble dwelling cannot be made more comfortable. My furnishings are limited. Of course, I had hoped for more spacious accommodations, but what can I say? Those who no longer hold power can not expect too terribly much from those who have taken it from them. I should understand that well. For it is far better for a prince to be feared than loved. What is the meaning of that sad music I keep hearing, jailer? Are there other souls being released from this tomb one way or another? I see 2 men being brought to the scaffold across the courtyard. Bastoni! Caponi! They're passing them right underneath my window. Gentlemen, I know now is not the appropriate time to ask, but why did you include my name on your list of conspirators? When you plotted to assassinate His Magnificence, the very least you could have done is ask my permission. It would have been more politic. Oh, don't be afraid. We will meet again soon enough. So, the end of another failed political experiment. The hour arrived finally. Yes, jailer, you may tell the Inquisitor I am ready to receive him. Signor Inquisitor, I hope that I know what you would have me say before you force me to say whatever will satisfy you. A confession? To what but His Magnificence wish me to confess? My life? To that I'll confess freely enough. Confess? What more is there to confess? What more can I say? They've taken from me my badge of office, my honor. They've forbidden me from doing the one thing that means more to me than anything else in the world, my work. What more could you ask? My blood? No! I've done nothing wrong. Maledetta bestia crudele. You know. Who knows where fortune's wheel may turn again, Inquisitor. One day you may be in my position and I in yours. Oh, I do have one confession to make. I'm a poet. I have a verse here for His Magnificence. Be sure to get it to him. I'm sure he'll find it amusing. Shackles on my legs I have, Giano, and on my back 6 stripes of the strappado. My other miseries I will not tell, as poets aren't used to being treated well. Oh, so you're finished with me for now. Well, don't hurry back too quickly. I have plenty of time to wait. You know what Da Vinci said about reason? That men are driven by their basest desires and leave no room for it. You know what I think? I think that in a world of the blind, the few who are sighted must pretend they are not if they wish to survive, and I will lie like the truth and people will believe me. Some seeming random thoughts are coming to me, which I must get down on paper. Jailer, I need a new quill, some ink and paper. I must have something with which to write, but not a confession. Something far truer and falser than that. Well, my friends, surprised to see me still alive? Host, drinks for everyone. The Medici released me from prison shortly after I was tortured. They realized how harmless I was. I have retired to my farm, my wife Marietta, my one constant companion ever since, while I wait word that I can once again serve my country. Oh, there she is, looking for me as if I drink too much and lose my way home. All right, well, I'm back to the farm. Marietta, was there a letter for me? I was hoping for a letter from Vittori. He's trying to return me to favor with the Medici. Great people command, little people wait. That is all I have become. Why else do you think they released me from prison? Oh. If it hadn't been for politics, I would have taken a vow of silence. But then I always remember what Da Vinci says. Nothing enhances authority more than silence. I'll be back for dinner. But if a letter from Vittori does arrive, please send somebody. I was sure I could be of service to him. If not in Florence, in Rome, I could be made useful, someone of my gifts. If I really become a farmer? No, don't concern yourself, my dear. No one cares what happens to me anymore. Doesn't that reassure you? I'll be at the tavern. Oh, but before that, I must find that tenant farmer who's been making himself such a pest. Hey, Frosino, what's this I hear? You cut a few cords of wood from my forest and withheld from paying me the 10 lira? Yes, I know your claim. I owe you from a game of Krika we played at Guicciardini's some years back. Well, my ignorant friend, I do not remember that debt. And if you withhold from payments, I shall prosecute. You know what you can do, Panzano? I'll malocchio to you too. Oh, never mind. Cut down the whole forest. I'm gonna go get drunk. I know, and I'm sorry it worries you, my dear. But since no one's asking my opinion anymore, I cannot keep from the temptation of continuing to put my thoughts on paper in the hopes that someday someone may learn from them. What do you think of this letter I've written to His Magnificence? This little book I am writing, perhaps if His Magnificence reads it, he will see that the 15 years I spent learning the craft of statesmanship, I was not dreaming. If he just glances at the prince, he will know he could be fortunate to get the services of one as wise with experience as I am. You think I am dreaming? I put on my robe of office. Yes, I know it's forbidden. That's all the more reason I should wear it. It helps me to pretend that His Magnificence is listening to me. Your Magnificence, if you would just listen to me. I only want to be of service to you, even if my first task is but to roll a stone. And I hope you find time to read the book that I presented to you. Oh, and there is also this trifle I've been working on in my free time, a play, a comedy, La Mandragola. Now, in this country, they're all muckworms. They don't appreciate ability. If that man of yours came here, nobody would pay him any attention. I ought to know. I worked like the devil to earn a few lira, and if I had to rely on the people around here, I'd be sleeping in the fields. And you know why? Because in this country, people like you and me, with no political connections, we can't even get a dog to bark after us. We're only good for loafing around the piazza all the time. But I don't worry about them. I don't need anybody. I hope Your Magnificence found this fool amusing. You must understand that because it's a comedy, nothing they say should be taken seriously. And if you would only just read The Prince, it's dedicated to you, you know. Henrietta, the letter has arrived. It's from the Pope. I know if I waited long enough, they'd find some employment for me. See, we do have a hand in our own fortune. Signor Machiavelli and his service. Small errand. He will appreciate. Now, on a post. That would be too much to expect from His Holiness. Little more than a messenger's errand. Well, still that's something, as Petrarch says, to know that in the world's confusion what pleases it is but a brief illusion. Do you think they're afraid of me? I found a passage in The Prince that reveals my true feelings about those who ruled me. I understood their ingratitude. Fear and suspicion are so natural to princes that they cannot defend themselves against those feelings. Well, I must go on my errand for His Holiness. Take good care of my robe, my dear. Who knows, maybe someday I'll wear it again. This is another letter. Marietta, you should have told me. Oh. The great Leonardo has died. It says here that in his last minutes he was embraced by King Francis. Well, at least he was able to do in his life what he most wished, even if he had to disguise his true intentions. I have not been so lucky. And yet I still live in hope. Marietta? Marietta, do you hear those bells? It has finally happened. Guicciardini and his friends have put the Medici to flight. The Republic will be restored. You know what this means? I will be given back my post. They must give it back to me. My whole life depends upon it now. There was some talk about Francesco Tarugi being the most likely candidate. Tarugi. Everyone knows he was an instrument of the Medici. I was ousted by the likes of him. No. The Republic has been restored. I will wear my robe of office once again. Gentlemen of the Signoria Council, I wish only to be heard. I wish only to have the opportunity of serving the Republic of Florence once again. All of you know me. Some of you have served me. Some of you I know do not approve of my writings. Some of you claim that I have advised monarchs on how best to oppress the people. Well, it is true. I have written a great many things in my books. And some of them may be considered against the people's interest, but all I did was tell the truth about how a monarch rules. No one before me has had the courage to do that, and few now dare to face the truth. Citizens of the Republic of Florence, I wish only, once again in this life of mine that seems to have spent itself in waiting, the opportunity to serve my country. I could ask for nothing more. After careful deliberation, It has been decided by the Council that the post of Secretary to the Second Chancellery is to be awarded to Francesco Teruggi. Long live the Republic of Florence. Marietta? Marietta, are you there? If only Borgia had lived up to my hopes, been a just ruler, but that was just a dream. I hope, and hope but feeds upon my anguish. I weep, and weeping nourishes my heart. I laugh, but still my soul does languish. I burn, but no one's there to take my part. The world about me I have come to fear, for everything in life is woe to me. I weep and laugh and cry at what I hear, and dread the world that I've learned to see. The world that I have learned to see. I've shown it to others, and they have only found in me the source of the illness I wished them to see and purge. A dream, really quite a marvelous dream. I dreamt that I saw a crowd of pious-looking but poverty-stricken people with thin lips and set mouths. And I asked who these were, and I was told, "These are the blessed of paradise. For it is said in Scripture, blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Well, certainly I qualify. But then they disappeared, and in their place I saw a joyous company. And they were discussing weighty matters, and among them I saw Plutarch and Plato and Tacitus. And I asked who these were and what was their destination, and I was told that they were bound for hell. For it is also said in Scripture that the wise of pagan times cannot dwell with the Lord. And then someone asked me with whom I would rather spend eternity, and I replied with no hesitation, I'd rather have the joy of good company in hell than be bored forever in heaven. Oh, that medicine I've always relied on has not been working properly. The few friends I have who still remain faithful to me now visit regularly, as if they expect that soon I will go on a journey from which I have no expectation of returning. There are so many things to remember. Hard to believe it could all have happened to me, Niccolo Machiavelli. You hear that, countrymen? They are still celebrating the liberation of the Republic. Oh, let them. Soon I know the tyranny that Hydra will raise up one of its many heads again. I can stand on my own, Marietta. Oh, Italy. Beloved country, when will you have your day of justice? Do not forget who I was, countrymen, what I wrote. If I was betrayed by anyone or anything, it was only for telling the truth.